If you thought the AI boom was just about software, it's time to think again. What we're actually facing right now is a massive physical compute crisis. It's literally testing the absolute limits of our planet, it's breaking supply chains, and it's completely reshaping the global economy as we know it. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack the staggering reality of this new singularity economy, the sheer surge in AI compute demand, and a massive corporate alliance that absolutely nobody saw coming.
Okay, to really understand the sheer scale of what's happening here, we have to start with this mind-bending number, 80x. This represents Anthropic's explosive, completely out-of-nowhere growth in just the first quarter of 2026. Now, to put that into perspective, their internal projection was 10x. And let's be real, in Silicon Valley, a 10x return is already the holy grail, right? It's a massive, incredibly ambitious benchmark. But they didn't hit 10x, they hit 80x. And here's the thing. At a corporate level, outperforming your own wildest estimates by that magnitude, it actually causes logistical panic. It literally breaks your supply chains because you suddenly just do not have the physical hardware to support that many users. The adoption of AI is accelerating at a pace that is destroying traditional economic models, creating this desperate scramble for physical infrastructure.
And that brings us to our first major shift, the compute crisis, where demand is quite literally going to infinity.
We are no longer in a software boom, folks. We are in a physical compute crisis. Just think about these numbers for a second, because they are completely unprecedented in human history. At the end of 2025, Anthropic had about $9 billion in annual recurring revenue, or ARR, which is basically a company's predictable, locked-in yearly subscription income. By April 2026, that skyrocketed to $30 billion, giving them a $1.2 trillion valuation. We're talking about revenue growth rates of 2% an hour, not a year. And if this trajectory holds, we're looking at a $40 trillion valuation by 2027. To wrap your head around that, that is roughly larger than the entire gross domestic product of the United States, all happening because AI demand is practically infinite.
It's kind of like the 1920s. Back then, people didn't just stop at using electricity for, simple light bulbs. Once they had it, they kept finding entirely new physical uses for it. Elevators, refrigerators, assembly lines. Today's enterprises are doing the exact same thing with AI tokens. An AI token is basically the fundamental building block of AI output, almost like a syllable of a generated word. And here is the catch. Every single one of those tokens requires actual physical electricity and hardware to generate. Businesses are finding an insatiable need for these tokens across every sector of the economy. So it's an infrastructural shift. The demand simply isn't going to saturate because the utility of these tokens just keeps expanding, consuming this seemingly bottomless well of physical power.
So how do you feed that demand? Well, it leads to part 2, the incredibly unlikely alliance between Anthropic and SpaceX.
The compute bottleneck is so severe right now that it's literally forcing bitter rivals to shake hands if they want to survive. For over a year, Elon Musk was highly critical of Anthropic. There was intense historical friction there. Yet, out of nowhere, Musk has completely redirected his empire to support them, forging this massive alliance just to rival OpenAI's dominance.
It essentially boils down to this perfectly pragmatic logic. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. You have to remember the context of this massive AI arms race. Elon Musk helped found OpenAI, he left on incredibly bad terms, and now he wants to beat them by arming their absolute biggest competitor. By helping Anthropic secure the massive amount of compute they desperately need to win, Musk gets his revenge, and at the same time, he places his own infrastructure right at the dead center of the global AI explosion.
What's wild is that SpaceX has effectively transformed into a hyperscaler. If you're not familiar, that's industry speak for a massive cloud infrastructure provider, kind of like Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud. SpaceX actually turned over their entire Memphis data center to Anthropic, and the details on this are just staggering. This colossal facility was built in a record-breaking 122 days, and it is completely packed with racks of NVIDIA H100 GPUs. The H100 is the absolute gold standard of AI chips right now. It's the heavy machinery running the entire boom. This single deal gave Anthropic so much raw power that they instantly doubled the rate limits for their Claude model. Meanwhile, SpaceX's own in-house model, Grok, has seemingly been pushed to the back burner. It was basically sacrificed to ensure Anthropic dominates the market.
Which brings us to part 3. Welcome to the Singularity Economy and the new picks and shovels.
This massive hardware bottleneck brings up the stark financial reality of this new economy. It's something heavily anticipated by a $5.5 billion bet from OpenAI whistleblower Leopold Aschenbrenner. He recognized early on that the software models, that's only half the story. The real foundation is power. To serve billions of concurrent AI threads for human users worldwide, global AI agents are soon going to require roughly 1,000 gigawatts of power. To put that abstract number into perspective, that is roughly the total energy capacity of the entire United States dedicated purely to AI. Energy and raw physical infrastructure are quite literally the most valuable commodities on Earth right now.
Think about the California gold rush. The people who actually got filthy rich weren't the ones mining for gold, right? They were the people selling the picks and shovels. Today, those picks and shovels are silicon chips and copper wire. While the broader S&P 500 had a fantastic year returning 31%, 6 major chip stocks returned an average of 320%. And the companies literally laying the data and energy infrastructure, they brought in an astonishing 419%. AI is no longer just a software revolution. It is fundamentally a heavy industry revolution.
And all of this is driven by an unstoppable economic engine called the Singularity Loop. You see, AI development is entirely gated by how fast we can pour concrete, lay pipes, and generate electricity. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. We build infrastructure so the AI gets smarter. That smarter AI then designs a vastly better, way faster computer chip. But of course, that new chip requires even more power to run. So what do? We build bigger power plants. The AI gets smarter again, designs an even more power-hungry system, and on it goes. It's a massive flywheel effect, and our physical planet is seriously struggling to keep up with the spin. But here's the catch. Earth has limits. That brings us to part 4, building the orbital future and completely bypassing Earth. The hard truth we have to face is that our terrestrial infrastructure simply cannot keep up with this singularity loop. Earth has heavy regulations, we have incredibly limited usable land, and massive power grid bottlenecks. That pushes the most ambitious players out there to look for ultimate solutions, leading to an astronomical $119 billion estimated cost for Elon Musk's terafab plan. So a terafab is essentially a massive, sovereign chip fabrication plant. Currently, the whole world relies heavily on Taiwan and companies like TSMC for semiconductor manufacturing, which creates this massive geopolitical choke point. To keep the loop going, tech giants are realizing they have to manufacture their own hardware, bypass these vulnerable terrestrial supply chains entirely, and scale beyond our planet's physical borders. We are scaling up at a terrifying yet awe-inspiring speed. We're moving from physical buildings that are constrained by local power grids on land to autonomous sovereign chip factories. But the final step? Space. The long-term endgame goal here is orbital Dyson swarms. A Dyson swarm is a sci-fi concept that is actually becoming reality. It's a massive megastructure of solar panels and computer servers that completely surrounds a star to capture its raw energy. By moving compute nodes up into the vacuum of space, you get infinitely abundant solar energy. And because it's a vacuum, cooling those intensely hot servers is completely free. We are witnessing the birth of a corporate space race, where hyperscalers are essentially acting like space agencies. Google is partnering with Planet Labs for Project Suncatcher to launch orbital data centers. And SpaceX? They have actually filed with the FCC to launch an unbelievable 1 million orbital AI data centers. 1 million! Just think about the extreme logistics of that for a second. Space is the ultimate unregulated frontier. It gives them zero gravity, vacuum cooling, and unlimited solar power for these demanding models. It really proves that the singularity is likely going to be visible first in the night sky, not down here on the ground.
So, as this modern gold rush leaves Earth behind and starts to reshape the cosmos itself, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. If human intelligence and economic power become fully dependent on orbital data centers, the entities that control those satellites will effectively control the future. Are we ready for that? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. See you next time.